You're listening to a 4x4 Radio Network podcast.
Okay, you're on. Okay.
Good morning, Jeeps and stuff. I'm kidding. It's your turn.
It was my turn last week, 2 weeks ago. I'm sorry. But anyway, I'll take care of it. Hey, folks. Welcome to On the Trail with Kevin and Scott. I'm Kevin, the engineer. You know, as I say every time, I'm the guy that reads the instructions, uses the right tools, and most of the time follows those instructions, unless I'm trying to be creative.
And I am Scott. I'm the slapstick parts guy on a continuing mission to sit here and try and sound smart, even though that I am actually. And with that, as we always share what works for us as well as what didn't, it's always up to you to do your research, read the instructions, and please follow them.
He got it right, folks. It
Boom,
only took
shakalaka.
187 tries.
Yes. And OTT Media does not guarantee I'll get the rest of them right for the continuing broadcast of this podcast. Please keep your receipts because there is no refunds because it's free.
Anyway. Oh, lordy. Okay.
Sit by the Red Bull. Not kidding. It's the Mountain Dew.
Well, so we got a couple of neat things. We threw you a little teaser.
Yes.
We're going to talk a little bit about a great group of people up in South Carolina for a little bit and their idea.
And my knee replacement, I just slammed into the table. Ow.
I got to put another table together, huh?
Hey! As you were saying, in South Carolina.
No, I was just saying we'll talk about them in a minute. The other thing I just shout out is, I'm getting ready to go take a train ride with a Jeep. And I'm not kidding.
You say that, I picture Back to the Future 3, you get the flux capacitor going on and you're being pushed by a train.
Yeah, no, not quite. But yeah, okay. No, my
flux capacitor. Oh, wait, I said flex capacitor. That's what's on
Sure you did.
Flex capacitor.
Okay. No, my wife and I decided to have some fun and take the auto train since there's one route left and it just happens to come from Sanford, not too far from you.
Literally.
And put the Jeep on the train, get ourselves a berth and ride it up to Lorton, Virginia, just outside of Washington, D.C. And then from there, slightly altered, my wife and I are going to head the little nose north and wander up to through Gettysburg and take ourselves to Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania, which is where we lived a long time ago. Maybe go visit. Well, we are doing visits with friends. We're going to be visiting with them for a day or two. From there, we're going to head on up to State College. And you're going, what's that got to do with Jeeps? Well, because State College is right next to Butler, Pennsylvania. And on June 9th through the 11th is the Bantam Jeep, the Heritage, what is it here? I get it right.
Well, really quickly.
Bantam Jeep Festival,
Yes.
or Heritage Festival. And it's actually over in Slippery Rock, one of the parks in Slippery Rocks. It's a festival. They got it. There's a Jeep invasion. There's trails. There's playgrounds. Their best of Bantam competitions, Jeep history exhibit, vendors, and more. We talked about it the last show. Just a reference that I ran into a bunch of wonderful folks that are part of that festival who were down at Jeep Beach.
Yes.
And I'm going to go see all those folks as well as everybody. And for me and Susan, it's kind of interesting because Susan's from Philly. I was living in Pittsburgh at the time, and we both met at Penn State. So we're going to go, and I used to go, when I was a teenager, I used to go camping up there at the park that this is at.
Sweet.
And as many times as I went to Butler, I never knew back when I was that young that that was the birthplace of the Jeep, even though I desperately wanted one. My mom wouldn't let me have one back then. But anyhow, and then we're going to come back home, and we'll share with you all of the information. Scott's over here turning absolutely
When you said you went camping in the park, I said, Jurassic Park?
No, they were long-armed dinosaurs.
That was even better than when you take the train to Gettysburg. Don't forget the address. So it's a round robin trip. You're going to Butler, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, the whole point of this is we're going to the Bantam Jeep Heritage Festival. First time going to that event.
Right.
We're just going up in a unique trip. We're going to take the train up, and the Jeep gets to take the train too.
Yeah.
We'll have to interview the Jeep, see what it thinks about and then we're taking the train home. Unfortunately, the train doesn't go all the way up there, so you have to jump out in Washington, D.C., and we decided to take it easy on ourselves because while slightly altered is a very capable trail rig, it is not the most comfortable freeway cruiser.
No, I have to beg to differ. Going to Tennessee wasn't that bad.
No, I didn't say it was bad, but have you cruised Virginia and Pennsylvania roads?
Yes.
Okay, so you know that
Someone else drove in Pennsylvania. I almost died twice because my dad used to illegally run stuff there. I'm joking. And he drove those mountain roads like a bat out of where.
So you know that
Exactly.
is about
Kind of as bad as I-4. So
I-4 is way smoother.
and Virginia, Virginia was a bus. I didn't have to drive. The bus driver did. It was one of those big motor coaches.
Yeah. And they have a little more suspension travel and softer tires.
You know, you're saying that, and I remember being in Pennsylvania because me and my stepdad went to go see the Baby Grand Canyon, and he was driving down this back country road going absolutely nuts because this is roads he grew up on. I remember we were all on an Olds Calais, and he bottomed it out real hard.
Oh, yeah. Well, I didn't say you couldn't reach those limits. No, I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a lot of fun, but we'll be bringing you back for those of you that aren't up in that area and haven't ever gone to that festival, I'll be bringing some firsthand reports. I'm going to meet a bunch of folks and see what's going on up there. I still think it's really cool that, we get to go back and see the town where back in 1941, I think is when the solicitation went out, that somebody said, I can make a better vehicle for the Army.
You get to see the birthplace of Autumn's GPW, which I got to tell you, man, please, we tease it last show. I got to know about those Ford engines in the GPW.
I'll find out what I can.
Completely derailed me about that. Where I think
that was a derail train wreck combination.
That was in my brain. It's all at the same time, Quick question: can you drive the train, or is that a different kind of engineer?
Different kind of engineer.
Good.
Nice try there, Bucko.
Well, that's good. That's really kind of cool because again, I've seen YouTube videos about it, and that looks like it's gonna be a really cool adventure with that whole. Heritage Jeep Festival?
I'm hoping so. The people I've met so far have been absolutely fantastic, and they were down here in Florida, not even up there. So I kind of have high hopes for it.
Yeah.
I definitely have high hopes for it. So anywho, moving on to the teaser.
Yes.
All right, folks.
Get your popcorn ready.
And
all hate mail goes to. No.
Yeah. Well, it should not be hate mail. I think it's a fantastic idea that somebody is stretched their mind a little bit and decided to do something different.
One man's trash is another treasure.
This is a counterpoint. I will start off with this, folks. We have talked many times about engine swaps, but the shows we have done have talked about 6.0s and 5.3 V8 swaps, and we even had a discussion early on when I chose to modify my Jeep and keep the straight 6 with an Edelbrock head, but I'd been looking at a Hemi swap, and they've all been of that nature. But what's common about all of these swaps that we've done has been they've all been essentially DIY.
Oh, yeah.
We've had the junkyard engine using the junkyard harness, which we put in the gray CJ7, okay, and what it took to make it run. We've talked about using a company-sponsored rebuild that's prepared for you, the Novak kit, we talked about my upgrades. I looked into, again, the junkyard, doing that kind of thing, and found the problems to be more than I was ready to play with. Plus, I thought, trying to build the 4-liter to see what I could get out of it without, a little more of the garage level effort, something as opposed to, I helped Ron do the Stroker, which was a 4.6, which was awesome. But, most people wouldn't want to go that far. What can I do in a weekend? And you were there when we swapped the head out.
Yeah.
And it really was a doable in a day upgrade. Yeah. And it has worked out exceedingly well. No, I'm not up to the V8 power by any stretch, but I'm better than the stock 4.
Yeah.
4.0. But we haven't covered the other side.
Yeah.
Okay. And we're working on that. If you don't have the
Skills
money
and tools.
and the skills and the place, but if you have the money but don't have the skills and the desire to do it yourself. Okay. We met last time with Bruiser Conversion. Sorry
Yes.
about that. Brain freeze there.
Yeah.
And they've agreed to come on the show. And we're going to make an appointment to get over to see them sometime in the next few shows and talk about it. Now, I'm going to put Bruiser up there as the pinnacle. I'm sure there are other pinnacles, but
Yeah.
they're for us in this market down here in the Southeast.
They're local for us.
They're local for us, but they've got a track record of the really high end conversions. And that comes with a pretty high end price.
Yeah.
But you want a turnkey, everything done for you, and have yourself one bad bleep Jeep. Bruiser's going to be one of those shops that you could talk to. The downside, you better have a good wallet.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm not being mean. It's just a fact of life that if you want that much work done. But to this show, and this was at Jeep Beach, we learned of something in between, didn't we, Scott?
Yeah, they kind of teased it. I was actually on the interwebs, and basically I came across Aggressive TJ. That's how they have it on their one of their Facebook page.
Right, but
And someone made a comment about an engine swap. What do you guys think about the LS blah blah blah? The same one that always goes all the time. Excuse me. What's the better engine swap? What do you think about this? What do you think about that? And someone had made a comment about, you should see what
Aggressive
Crawlers is doing, because they have a kind of like an in-between kind of thing. And
Right.
that caught my eye. And then they did this whole campaign about releasing it at Jeep Beach.
so we were there.
Yeah.
And Aggressive Crawlers is a company in, let's see, where were they? In South Carolina, Myrtle Beach, South Carolina.
Yeah.
And while they got their initial name up there for Hemi conversions, using Hemi, Dodge, Chrysler engine powertrains and whatnot, and converting them into Jeeps, they came up with a different idea.
Yeah.
And let's just be honest. It was, and specifically for the TJs, let's take the 3.6. Particularly, I guess they had someone when they did Hemi conversions, they had some leftover 3.6s, what the guy told me. And I'm sure he'll correct me if I'm wrong when we get him on the show. And they transplanted it into a TJ.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, they picked up 100 horsepower. They picked up, 70 or 80 foot-pounds of torque.
I may have the information here. Hold
Yeah.
on. Well, they actually did into his daughter's LJ, actually.
Yeah.
More than just a TJ. LJ.
Well, it's the TJ platform, so.
Fair enough.
And it was kind of interesting that they said that it really woke up that platform.
Aha.
Yeah.
Ow. Sorry. Here's what we got. Basically, with the stock TJ 4.0, you have 183 horsepower at 4,600 RPMs. And the Pentastar V6 is 293 horsepower at 6,600 RPM. You have 222 foot-pounds of torque at 2,800 RPMs. On the Pentastar, you have 260 foot-pounds of torque at 4,400 RPMs. The TJ engine, blah, 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 words, and basically the engine weight is 30% less.
Less, yeah. And acknowledged, they said that the engines they have taken care of some of the known issues with the 3.6 before they transplant them in. They bring in the wiring systems. They have an answer for the dash challenge because, of course,
that was cool.
The TJs and LJs use a PCI data bus, which is now archaic. And so they use the TIPM, and they use a particular Dakota Digital dash that looks really close to the TJ. And the numbers are impressive. The weights are impressive. The mileage is impressive because you take the engine and take it out of the weight of the JKJLs, even Gladiators that they came in, and put it in a much lighter weight TJ and LJ body. It's kind of a neat idea. And the more we looked at it, the more these guys seem to have really thought this through. Yeah. Engine placement for front to weight balance is improved. Accessibility and serviceability seem to be as good or better than it would have been in the JL that it would have come out of. We'll just use the JL as a thing. So it kind of fits in that niche. And here's the point. They estimate, now it's going to vary by Jeep, what you bring in, how much work needs to be done, stuff like that. But just in round numbers, something like a Bruiser is going to run you 40 to 50 grand, okay, out the door. But those things at the time of this recording, they were saying it's only going to be in the low 20s to do a 3.6 conversion.
Which is not bad.
No, it's not bad at all for a cost of a conversion. Particularly for someone else doing it, it's extremely affordable. Yeah,
because Bob paid around $14 for the kit,
and then still had to do the installation, and that was with the 5.3 LS. And you have the advantage of it all being a Chrysler product and Chrysler wiring, and a lot of the things haven't changed. I'll tell you that when you look at the manuals for color codes and stuff like that. If you could service the 4-liter, you can probably handle the 3.6. It's a smoother running engine. It's a quieter engine.
To me, it's the 8-speed. And I know you have your opinions on the 8-speed, but
it's just the 8-speed was probably where the efficiency comes from. No, my comment on the 8-speed is there was teething problems with the 8-speed.
Of course.
And depending on which 8-speed you got. So it's a kind of a thought. Plus, they also do the swap with sticks. So if you want to stir the box, you can get it with with a manual as well. And I think he said they can do the T5 or the T6, depending on.
Oh, wow. I thought that you'd be stuck with an NSG 370.
Nope.
Okay, that's a game changer then.
Yeah, he was talking about, well, again, what do you want to pay for?
Yeah, that's fair.
It's a custom shop. They'll do whatever you want. Because I was asking him the same thing, it's okay. How does the transmission hang up? He says, well, it depends on what transmission. He says, we'll put anything in you want. If it with a manual, I don't have to worry about computer issues, So
fair enough.
So we saw the build, and if you want to, they have a Facebook page. It's called just simply Aggressive Crawlers with a K. And the guys there were fantastic, and they have shots of the whole show and everything up there. Looking at the of course they're all wrapped and painted and pretty, but the point is if you go to their install page and look at some of their engine installs and the way it's laid together, of course their billboard says 3.6 liter conversion with an 8-speed automatic, and let's see if I can find something here. They've really thought through it. I'm sitting here with a picture up that they have the computer almost in a stock JKJL location. It looks normal. The engine looks normal. There's so much to staying within the genre.
Yeah.
And this is coming from a guy who's played in the cross manufacturers. The challenge you get to there is it's almost impossible to get a shop to look at it other than a private shop.
Yeah.
Whereas you go to the Chrysler dealer and it's a custom. So yeah, but it's all Chrysler components. Your computer will read it,
Yeah. Well, the interesting thing when you talk about Chrysler components, even the shifter for the automatic is the one out of the Gladiator.
Yep.
It's got the it's probably out of the JL, but the point is it has a Jeep on the button thingy.
It's all logoed out.
It's all logoed out, but it's not because you're using Jeep to Jeep, and that was one of my biggest concerns when it came to engine swaps when I had my YJ.
Yeah,
is okay. I can't go buy off the parts shelf. Now I know with this, you're in that same realm. Off the parts shelf. Wow, I'm a parts guy. You can tell I've been recording today.
They're fine.
Okay, let's try this again. Take 7. So the point is that it's hard to find off-the-shelf parts for custom builds. Like I blew out the power steering hose of my LS swapped LJ.
Yep.
Just going to be hard to find a power steering pump. But if they're using the same power steering system into the TJ, you're going
to have the same box and everything. So the parts will be
hopefully.
Well, hopefully. And I don't know. This is one of the things when we get a chance to talk to them, as well as when we talk to Bruiser. I want to talk to them a little bit about parts availability. Are you
stuck going to boutique?
Are you making customs that you have to have made each time, or are you utilizing
off the shelf parts.
off the shelf parts, and do you provide a list
Yeah.
of those parts that might not be obvious? You know?
Oh, you just refired a snap in my brain.
Uh-oh.
No, good ways, because one of the things that I used to, in my younger in my parts days, Saturday nights with the race, because I was right next to a racetrack, everyone would come to me and talk about how they're in the points lead. You know, this broke on their car and they need a ball joint for their race car. Okay, what'd you take the control arms of? I don't know. It's a race car.
Yeah.
Buddy, you're not getting back in time. But yet, when I made a comment to one of the racers about, just get a sheet of paper and write down what you took the car out of, what you took the part out of in the junkyard car. Next thing you know, within a year, I had guys bring me laminated sheets because it's always greasy in the pit.
Oh, yeah. It'll.
A laminated sheet of what year what they took the car part off of, and man, those guys got back out into the track faster.
Right, because they helped you give them the parts.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things about this conversion that kind of caught my eye. First thing that I grabbed was, okay, that's a neat idea. What about the problems that were reported with the 3.6s? The early, and like the 3.8s had the head cracking issue. The 3.6s had the valve train issues. We just got done talking about that last show, and then the oil thing. And the idea there was, okay, there are questions about that. And he said, we've addressed all those. Now, that was a teaser. He didn't tell us how. That's why we're going to have the show with them.
Yep. Got to leave something for the show.
Got to leave something for the show. But he said, no, actually, it's kind of neat. The 3.6 has similar volumetric efficiencies to the 4.0, which simply means it draws in about the same amount of air and it sends out about the same amount of exhaust, which means all of your TJ parts on intake and exhaust are sized suitable for this swap.
Okay.
All right. So primarily exhaust is the biggest one. Well, you can use the basically the cat back for the TJ without a problem. The flow rates are close to the same, which would make sense. A 4-liter versus a 3.6.
Yeah.
The 3.6, you say, oh, that's smaller, but it breathes better. Whereas the 4-liter is a bigger displacement, but it breathes really crappy.
You're trying to run a marathon while sucking air through a straw.
Yeah. So, there's a lot of things about it that work well. Fuel consumption is better. So the fact that you have a gas tank that only holds 14 to 16 to 19, depending on which version and how much clipping you've done to the tank, is plenty large enough for the 3.6.
It's about the average of the Dodge Charger I had. It was a 19-gallon tank.
Yeah. So there's a lot of merit in this, and I'm very interested in it, folks. And I'd like to, before we get them on the show, which will be probably in the next couple of months, their schedule is in ours, I'd love to have any of you send us emails or Facebook comments. Let us know. Good idea, bad idea. I'll challenge you, though. If you tell me it's a bad idea, tell me why. Because I will bring it up to the company. I think this is a neat idea. The only reason I would hesitate, like most of us, is we see all the bad press that came out early with the 3.6 history. And, you yourself, Scott, are on the list in case your engine goes south in the Gladiator. And
that's fair. That's fair.
And so that's one of those things that would need to be addressed before I would consider it as a swap. On the other hand, packaging, size, weight, horsepower, for volume, it's an ideal candidate. And then the fact that it is a Jeep motor in a Jeep.
Yeah.
It would be EPA compliant.
Yes.
For those that care about that. I do. I realize I'm the 1 in 1,000, but.
Well, I think you're more than that. I just have to byline on what you just said a second ago. I have always been a big fan of what was at once called the Phoenix engine, which is now the Pentastar V6. I had it in my Charger, and I know it's a difference between the motor then and the motor now.
Yep.
But I've always been a proponent of this engine, even with its failings. I mean, look at the 4-liter. I just posted a picture about, number 2 piston leaving the check because it was sitting in the bottom of the oil pan.
Yeah, but the engine, it still brought him home.
It still brought him home. It was a clackety-clack down the track, but he got him home. But again, at the same time, I just, where I work with, again, the Flapping Penguin, I see a lot of engine issues, and it's not just one brand now. That's why we talked about the tinfoil hat. We're not rehashing that show.
Please don't.
But the point is that I've been a big proponent of this engine. It is a powerhouse when everything works correctly. Now, even Mark Lawson, who had his engine replaced in his Gladiator at less than 5,000 miles, he'd beg to differ.
Yeah.
But at the same time, every engine has its issues. Come on, 4 liters leaking rear main seals.
Oh, yeah.
The 4 liter is not the panacea of engines. Now, I love it in my LJ, and I want to drive. Oh, by the way, speaking at the time of recording, the bearing has been on my shelf in the garage this many months. So I have 6 months left in the year to I can go ahead and put it in. And I tell you right now, I am itching to get that bearing in. It's driving me crazy. I have to get the LJ fixed. Sorry, byline. But the point is that I was actually, looking at thinking down the future for the repower.
Yep.
Well, I know I'd pay more because, again, the Novak kits. And I was really kind of going, well, I don't want the VA because everyone else has done it. And this happened. And I'm like, ooh, I don't have to lay on my back and get greasy.
Well, I've been thinking about the LS or LT derivative V6 from GM, but now it's got me thinking maybe I should stick with the Jeep logo.
Yeah.
And so I'm very interested myself to talk to them about. I get the power, I get the packaging, I get the weight, the fuel economy, I get all that. The reliability. Talk to me about, and I want them to talk to me about, you say you addressed it at Jeep Beach, but we didn't get time to talk in detail. And I want to know how they addressed it. Is it a Baxter conversion like we just did the run on yours to see how that keeps the oil up there? Or do you come back and say, well, since it's a used engine now, we're not going to run 020 anymore. And we're going to go back to the 530, and that has a better retainage.
Yeah.
Or does the earlier versions have a different filter housing that maybe has a back check valve?
It does.
Okay.
I will say this there, but again, my Charger, thinking back, it sounded like a box of rocks when I started in cold start.
Right.
But back to one other comment you made about being carb compliant.
Yep.
That is probably, and I know I can hear the keyboard warriors now, that might not be important to some people, but like Florida, we're lucky where technically no one applies the law. But you made something interesting at lunch today, a comment about how you can't go backwards. Well, okay, you shouldn't go backwards. It's the year.
The point is, it's state by state, you have different regulations, but there is an overarching EPA requirement that you cannot repower with an engine and emission systems that predates the manufacturer of the body.
Right.
All right. You can get in federal hot water. Now, they have not. They've made different forays into the they made a big one on the diesel community with people backdating, and took a few of the famous TV diesel folks to court on. And
not Mario Brothers.
No, but you're supposed to match or move forward, and then bring the emissions with the engine. And I get it. I'm hearing people already go, what word starts with the first letter?
Yeah.
The emission. And I get that. You can have that opinion, but there are states you can't follow your opinion. Yeah. If you're in an emission state, good luck.
North Carolina,
Pennsylvania, you will not pass, okay, unless you pay somebody. And we don't do that here, okay?
Yeah.
I try very hard when I do a build, and this is just me speaking personally, to stay emissions compliant because I actually like breathing clean air. I am old enough to remember smog. I lived in Pittsburgh, for heaven's sakes, where we had polychromatic sunsets due to the pollutants in the air. Multicolored.
Okay, thank you. I'm like, what the heck? What?
Polychromatic.
I'm thinking a bunch of parrots. What? Polly want a cracker? Like flying through the air.
No,
but okay.
But poly as in many.
Gotcha.
They were the most beautiful sunsets I ever did.
But they're deadly.
But they're deadly.
Yeah.
Okay. It's not normal to have greens and blues in a sunset.
Not to mention the acid rain eating the way you paint.
Yeah, that's pretty bad too. So I tend to.
It's an ethical question.
It's an ethical question, and my ethics run differently than a lot of people's. I get it. And I'm not trying to tell you have to do that when you're listening to this show.
Yeah,
Please,
we don't tell you what to do.
Me, I like to keep it compliant. And so far, I've been able to build power and capabilities and still be legal.
Yeah.
So let me say, I'm the counterpoint that says it can be done. Do I spend more doing it than the guy that rips everything off and throws it in there bare naked and rolls coal? Yeah, it probably cost me a little bit more money.
When you say bare naked, I just figure someone out there in safety
The
glasses,
engine,
tearing the
engine,
thing apart.
Scott.
I got my safety glasses on at least.
Oh, heavens.
I burned myself when I sat down, but I got my safety glasses on. I'm sorry, but again, this is a polarizing subject. Either you love or hate
It is. So, I want to know what people think about the option of using a 3.6, and even more than that, what would you use if it was your opportunity? What would be your driving concern? Money, time, or would it be horsepower? Would it be revs? Would it be torque? What drives you in your dream Jeep? Okay. For me, I'm weird. I'll be the first one to say this. I'm looking for weight balance. I'm looking for torque. I'm looking for drivability, fuel economy. I'm not really worried about horsepower.
Yeah.
And we've talked about that on the shows when we were at the dyno. Jeeps do not live in the high horsepower range. You can build them. There is that guy that has the old DJ that he's got, it runs on the drag strip. And Scott's over here smirking like
no I'm end. Smirking because we saw a video today by the Kiwi, or no, the Australian.
Yeah.
I almost had that wrong. Wow.
Yeah, that's a different borough.
Yeah. Sorry, Australian listeners.
And also
I know Kiwi is Netherlands or no. Wait, it's, oh my God, I'm getting it wrong, and I do apologize. They filmed Lord of the Rings. It's not important to the film. The point is that the person talked about, because they're talking about snorkels.
Yeah.
Look, this is a 4-wheel drive vehicle. It's not a race car. You're not building something for the track. You want to build something for the track, kind of like what Kevin just said, is again, my whole thing with what I build my Jeeps for is, again, the same thing: dependability, drivability. And again, I know they're saying this with the Jeep, but I just like the fact of using. Again, I just love that 3.6 8-speed combo. When I can't get that out of my head enough. To me, that is enough for the swap. Full stop. Because I'm driving with a 7,000 or a 65. Well, I'll look in the door later. Really heavy Gladiator. Okay, I can imagine that thing in a 4,400 pound LJ would be a hoot.
Yeah, and put it in a 3,500 pound TJ.
I'm not riding with you.
And by the way, apologies to all our friends and listeners in New Zealand.
New Zealand, thank you. Oh man, I'll tell you what. I am so sorry, guys. All 3 of our listeners there.
Yeah, he's one of those guys that you can spin the globe and he put it in the spinner and goes, "Oh, there's land there."
Why do they call it Greenland when it's made of ice and Iceland made it all green? Moving on.
Well, when it is green, it's gorgeous.
To tell you what.
And so is New Zealand. It is an
absolutely
awesome
Peter Jackson.
Country.
That's who it was.
Yeah. Yep.
But anyways,
anyhow,
this isn't Movie Cast with Kevin and Scott.
No,
but it's a polarizing subject because you talked about like the technology and dependability.
Yep.
All the JLs and all the JKs are earlier, or the 2012, 2018 are running the same 3.6. Now, the JKs run the 5-speed transmission, but the JLs and Gladiator run the 8-speed, and they don't seem to be having a whole lot of drivability issues, lest we talk about the typical oil cooler leak or the camshafts eating themselves.
Yeah. But again, those are issues, and that's what I'm interested to see how aggressive crawlers are dealing with that.
Yeah.
Are they just giving you a rebuild? I mean, I don't know. I don't want to hypothesize. I want to hear what they have to say, because
Absolutely.
The more I talked to the folks at their booth and we started talking about challenges, the more they said packaging that engine into a TJ chassis, whether it's an LJ or TJ, the engine department's the same, was so much easier than you would put any of the other V8s in there. It's already designed for the tighter frame rails. The exhaust system is tucked better for the frame rails. And you started realizing, wow, there is quite a bit of positivity there. And if they have addressed the questions that have haunted some of the predecessor engines, I'm going to have some serious thought about that, because that would, just the way they're converted, LJ was knocking people's socks off. I'd love to, that may have to be an experiment on my part.
Well, the only thing I will say, again, since we are talking about the Pentastar's weakness, is the bottom end. because a lot of people are putting their superchargers and all that, and the bottom ends are not the best. Those are dust pressed metal, kind of
centered metal.
Thank you.
And when you say that, though, again, you're talking about power adders that increase cylinder forces beyond just, normal, what do I want to say?
Operational conditions?
Yeah. In other words, you're starting at a higher baseline.
Okay.
Okay. Because when you add boost, the cylinder never sees atmospheric pressure, but the bottom end is. The bottom is all atmospheric pressure.
Okay.
So you're putting a greater load, thrust load is what I was struggling with, on that crank assembly. All right. Whereas if you're running it naturally aspirated the way the manufacturer intended, is it a problem? Is it really a weaker bottom end? When I tend to dislike those kinds of open-ended terms. Stronger, weaker, faster, slower.
We're not building a $6 million man here.
It doesn't matter. The point is, what is it?
Yeah.
As an engineer, I abhor those generalistic terms because they're undefensible and non-provable. Okay. Give me a baseline and go, okay, out of the factory, it makes 300 horsepower and so many foot-pounds of torque. And with this mod, I am now putting 450 horsepower and this many more foot-pounds of torque. That's a comparison that can be proven, tested, and you can actually do some decisions on.
Right.
Somebody says, oh, that's a better engine. Okay, how does better work in my Jeep?
That's fair.
What's your better versus my better? Okay, it's faster. Okay, what's faster? 0 to 60, the time up the mountainside, how long it takes you. It could be faster that I have to get to the gas station faster because I run out of gas quicker.
Welcome to 392 land.
Yes. So, how many gallons per foot does it take?
1.
So I'm looking at these kinds of things, and if you guys have listened to all 186 prior shows, you know that I'm the tech geek. Mm-hmm. I want to know numbers. I want to know figures, something I can use to reference. If somebody comes in and says, yeah, it's more powerful. Well, how much? Well, the stock engine's, 190 horsepower, mm-hmm. and this one's 196. Well, I have to agree, it's more powerful. Is it worth 6 horsepower? No.
Is it pushing a sheet of plywood down the highway or a Honda Civic?
Yes, exactly. So I'm very curious about this. I really am. And if you're listening to us over there at Aggressive Crawlers, I'm looking forward to this conversation. You caught my interest there at, what was the name? Did you have it on there?
Well, Dave is the person we spoke to.
Dave, we want to talk. And we did keep your business card, Dave.
Yes, we did. The
Open
important
the pod
ones.
bay doors, Hal.
Open the pod bay doors, Hal. No,
I can't do that, Dave. No.
What are you doing, Dave?
Yeah.
No, but well, there goes that interview. No, the important cards went in said wallet.
Yes.
But no, I think it's really interesting because everything considered, all things considered, is. Kevin and I talk about what's important, what's important to you, to your Jeep, what you want to do with it.
Exactly.
We talked about the 4.3 liter swap.
Yep.
It's almost as much horsepower, or it's more horsepower. Okay, I hope I can get this right. It's more horsepower per the size of the package than what's in there currently with more updated technology. Now, mm-hmm. I'm not going to get into the better, more argument or whatever. That's inconsequential. The point is, though, is that more power in a smaller package. Again, hopefully weighs less,
right? More
dependable, easier to work on. Those are my questions.
Yeah, and those are the kinds of things that we're looking at when we talk to different vendors. Yes, anybody could throw a 392 in the Jeep. The factory did that. Is it impressive? Absolutely. Okay. Is it affordable? Not for a lot of people. Is it economical? Not in the least, but that's not what it's for. Okay. So if that's your dream, you pursue the dream with the cost of your dream. I mean, that's all there is to it. And I'm not going to gainsay and say you're wrong. I'm going to look and go, awesome Jeep, dude. You know, but, on the other hand, for those of us that I honestly can say slightly altered is no longer my daily driver.
Right.
Because I'm sad to say it gets worse gas mileage than my diesel truck. And at the time of this recording right now, diesel and gas are down here in Florida pretty close to each other.
Well, slightly altered would do slightly better if you keep your fun out of the if you keep your fun out of the foot button. Wow.
Getting his merds mixed.
I'm getting something mixed.
Understood that, but that's part of the reason I built Slightly Altered was the fun pedal is going to be fun.
It's going to be slightly expensive here soon.
As I say, I may be older, but I ain't dead yet.
Oh, jeez.
It's...
Well, I keep thinking of the one guy who drove his Porsche Boxster or whatever it is, the young actor, Drive Fast, Leave a Good, or Die Young, Leave a Good Lean Corpse.
Yes, I can picture, but I can't pull his name up right now.
Yeah, that
James
guy.
Dean.
James Dean, yeah. In my case, I lived way too hard, and that ship has sailed.
Yeah. So, no, but I'll be probably the old guy in the nursing home with the wheelchair that's 4-wheel drive with the hopped up motor and the battery packs underneath. And
No. That came with a 36 volt. You put a 48.
at least.
Look, kids, 11 of these. Sir. Get out the concrete blocks and plywood. I'm going to make myself an Evel Knievel moment.
No, that's never been in my world. If I'm going to get to the air, I
Flyer.
want wings and a rotary engine.
Okay, yeah. No, you know what? Nope, I'm not going to.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to argue that one, sir.
No. I don't mind flying. It's a lot of fun, and there comes a point where speed gets to the point I'd rather be flying.
Yeah.
Because at those speeds, I have been there one time, and I will admit this, that I was cruising.
You said it, then did it?
I was moving down the road in a less than ideally automotively aerodynamic vehicle, better known as a 4x4. And I reached a critical speed, at which case liftoff.
88 miles an hour.
No, it was a little higher than that, and liftoff was almost achieved, and the squirreliness was rather terrifying.
See, previous statement. First you said it, then did it.
Yes, and so we backed it down a little bit and got to where the front wheels were firmly planted, and I didn't have an air cushion vehicle anymore.
No, again, that's something I would love to say. It's almost like one question I wouldn't mind asking,
Right.
being all considered with the gears, the wheels, the tires, and all that. What would the seat of the pants dyno 0 to 60 time be?
Yeah, well, that'd be a good question. I expect it will be, because I expect it'll be good simply for the weight. We're taking that big chunk of cast iron out and putting in something made of aluminum, as the Brits would say. I know from Slightly Altered, the seat of the dyno, with the added horsepower of the Edelbrock head and the fact that I took 90 plus pounds of cast iron out and put in something that was 30 or 40 pounds of aluminum and took that weight primarily off the front end is part of the reason I have that radical weight shift front to back during a launch. And the nose of that Jeep rises up kind of like a Tyrannosaurus Rex, and the front tires are like little short arms trying to grab the ground.
You know why the Tyrannosaurus was also known as the terrifying lizard?
Go ahead.
It had trouble wiping.
He's been waiting for years to use that one, folks.
38 to be specific.
And yet you take your dog out and watch him drag across the grass every time, and you haven't figured out that probably worked for them as well.
No, he did that once till he hit a sand spur.
Ouch.
And this was recent.
Well, okay.
Yeah, yike!
That's like my dog that was out there and thought, gee, what's this funny looking fence with the glowing red light, and peed against it to mark it as his.
Yeah.
You ever seen a dog sitting there cross-legged, whimpering with his eyes
rolled in the back of his head?
Yeah, that's when you find out that urine is conductive.
That dog was almost you're out. All right. Welcome to Farmcast with Kevin and Scott.
Anywho.
Yes.
So, folks, this has been an interesting little sidebar discussion, but we're looking forward to it because it threw us a curveball at Deep Beach. I had not talked to anybody prior to that had looked at the in-between realm.
Yeah.
So we've talked to you about, like I said, the junkyard swaps. We've talked to you about the manufactured kits. We've talked to you about the options available for keeping your same engine. Now let's move forward to having someone do it, but what are my options? I always had in mind that there was one. Now, yes, you had engine choices, but I've never seen this midline engine that was, let's keep the Jeep. Let's use modern Jeep parts on older Jeeps to bring them up to the 21st century and see how they run. And then we'll get into the guys that are just, money's no object. We are going to make the world, sing.
He did have one there at Aggressive Crawlers. It was the Demon Gladiator, which has the Demon motor in it. It could be yours for over $192,000, kids.
Yep. So again, these are all options, and trying to paint you the complete picture of what are your options, because we all like to tinker with our Jeeps. That's the thing I love about Jeeps, is that no matter what you think is right and wrong, you can do it. And we all do it, and we all do it a little differently each time. There is no exact copy. I know that Slightly Altered is my Jeep.
Yeah.
And Quantum Entanglement
is still broken.
Still needs a throwout bearing.
Oh, no, it's got it. It's just not installed in the car. Jeep, dang it. Oh, my goodness.
Another puppy.
Dave, if you're listening, I do apologize. I really can't remember. Anyway, check out their website about how much that Demon Gladiator was. I just know it was above my pay grade.
Right.
But the point is that we talk about how making your Jeep own, whether it's the 22-inch wheels with the rubber band tires, the audio systems, go over there, please, or anything else, you enjoy it the way you built it. Someone recently put on the Facebook page where they had done something to their Jeep, and everyone was one guy was bashing it or whatever. And I posted on there, I said, look, whether you do plasti dip stickers, ducks, I don't care. Make it your own. You want to put a 3.6, put a 3.6. Gabe Yoder and Bonnie's friend, Stacy's putting a 6-cylinder Mercedes diesel in her.
The D300 motor.
Yes.
That's awesome. And is he putting a blower on it? Or is he going naturally aspirated?
Basically, Specialty Motorworks, is that it? Or
Specialty Motorsports.
Specialty Motorsports. Yes, him.
Kenny.
Thank you. That's what I was looking for.
Oh, okay.
He's doing the build on it. And hi, Kenny. And they posted a picture of the engine.
Yeah.
And Gabe just rolled his eyes. He had the rolling eye emoji.
Yeah.
Because he did the LS swap or something like that in his. But she wanted to go diesel. Yeah. So again, whether you're doing a 6-cylinder diesel, the one guy had the XJs, the 4-cylinder Mercedes diesels.
Yeah, you remember that. Well, they also Mike came in with the D300 6 as well on one of them.
Okay. But
you can turbo them as well.
His was turbo.
The challenge with that is, one of the things we talked about was the EPA requirements and the age. But there is a crossover point in certain years of Jeeps with those motors where you're at least legal in the comparable.
Sometimes I think it's also too where if you're under 5,000 miles a year.
Yeah, well, it can also be considered a special or what they call a show vehicle or something like that.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, after a certain number of years, they basically say, well,
it's exempt.
It's exempt because it's so old now that if you had the stock motor.
All right, 454 in the GPW. Yeehaw!
Oh boy,
I can hear Autumn yelling no from here.
Yeah, well, I agree with her on that.
Yes,
let's not. Just starting that thing, the torque would tip the little Jeep upside down.
A big old meaty rat with a blower. Not saying the cam lobes are too high, but it sounds like you're slamming a door in a house like eight times.
Good Lord. Heaven.
I'm not wrong. You used to do funny car dragging or
yes, I used to run drag cars, but it wasn't quite that bad.
All right, it's like forming
but I admit, if we had the money, we probably would have.
Yeah, exactly.
Back then, we were invulnerable.
Exactly.
It was just a matter of running it down the strip. It was just a quarter mile. We could do in it.
Exactly.
You would survive anything until I got an explosion under while I was working on the engine, and it threw me into the hood.
Well, and gas was a nickel.
Not quite that cheap, but yeah, the idea was in the general department of, I think when I started drag racing, it was probably around 40 cents a gallon.
Yeah.
50 cents a gallon, something like that.
It was $1. When I started driving, it was $1.09.
Oh, I can still remember when it went over $1 a gallon, and I was heartbroken.
Welcome to Gas Talk with Kevin and Scott.
Yeah, but that is relevant to Jeeps. Come on, be honest.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
But again, I've said many times, we're trying to push a sheet of plywood followed by a load of bricks down through the wind at any speed.
Yeah, while breathing air through a straw. We've lost this show already. It's off the rails. But the important part, though, about this is we want your feedback. Before we have aggressive crawlers on there, if you got a question, comment, concern, on the trail podcast at gmail.com, we want to hear you. You are our listeners. You are the ones that, kind of give us the show ideas and the feedback. And we love that stuff because, as we always said, this is your show. And we love the idea. We thought this would be interesting because, again, the guy said the same phrase over and over that I said is one man's trash is another treasure. Isn't that what hot rodding was?
Yep.
Think about the surplus Jeeps. Uncle Sam's trash became our treasure. A whole industry was formed over it. It just again, I don't want your Bronco, but the point is that no, I'm joking. The idea is use what you have, use what's available, because
it goes back to the heart of hot rodding, guys. When you used to have, somebody had an old Model T.
Yeah.
So what did you do? Well, I went to the junkyard and I found a wrecked, Lincoln. Mm-hmm. So let's go ahead and let's put the T on a Model A frame, put the Model Flathead V8 in it, and then I'm going to put a Dodge rear end in it, and let's do, somebody else's front axle, and the T-bucket was born.
What kind of brakes do you want to use? We don't need those. I'm right.
Yeah.
Brakes were an afterthought.
I got a concrete block and a chunk of rope tied to the rear bumper. I'll throw it out if I need to stop.
No, that's weight.
Back then, believe me, a T-bucket doesn't weigh that much.
No, I actually saw a bunch of hot rod documentaries. They talked about, the guy said, we really didn't think about brakes. A lot of us died young.
Yeah, they didn't have front brakes, which is most of your braking. They just used the drum brakes on the back. But the whole thing is that is your point, and I get it, that a lot of it was reuse, okay? Mm-hmm. And we've the Jeep world has kind of gotten stuck in a rut, Yeah. There seems to be two camps. Keep the original engine, go with a Chevy motor, or go with a Hemi.
Yeah.
And you don't hear about much. And I did see a small group with that Mercedes diesels for a while, but they're no longer produced. And so you start kind of going, I jokingly say that D300 series diesel, I forget the number, M's, whatever it is, and I'm sure I'll get it, M614 diesel. Oh, well, I'm sure somebody will correct me. Was essentially the diesel version of the Jeep 4-liter.
Yeah.
You couldn't kill it.
Right.
You didn't even have to change the oil that often. It leaked enough oil from the cylinders to keep the bottom in.
It's a perpetual oil change.
And it runs. It isn't fire breathing. Now, can you put a supercharger on them, or can you put a turbocharger on them? Yes, and then they get a little livelier, but they are just that solid rock of an engine that would run and run and run and run and run and run. Really didn't care what fuel you dumped in it. Sound familiar?
Well, I had a guy I worked with at the body shop. He literally wanted, hey, you got any used motor oil? I'll take it.
Yeah, because he put it back
filter
in.
It, and one time he didn't even filter it. He put it right in the tank. I'm like, ooh, he goes, it's fine. I'm like, okay. Started up, a little bit of blue smoke, went away, drove off. I'm like, okay, bye.
So it's just an interesting concept. So again, asking you, the listeners, questions, comments. What do you think, if nothing else, of migrating the 3.6 backwards into the TJ platforms?
Someone would consider it heresy.
Yeah, there are those that do. Why?
Blasphemer.
I'd love to know why it's heresy. And is it worse or better than a Chevy swap or a Ford swap? I have seen a TJ with a 5.0 Mustang motor in it, a Coyote, which for a while I thought it was neat too, other than I didn't think it fit well.
Yeah.
Okay. The guy talked about everything that he had to do to make it fit. Coil towers moving and those kinds of things. But, we've gotten to the point in the Jeep world, if you went back to, when I started driving in the 70s, and what was being done in the off-road world as far as modifications to what we do now as DIY builds, it's phenomenal. Mm-hmm. Okay. Our friend, Robert, who's building that widened TJ 1 tons LS swap, roll cage, and you look at that stuff and you'd think you were in a Baja race shop. Okay. The amount of fabrication going on. And nope, it's just his Jeep and he wants to build it his way, and he's doing a great job of it.
Yeah.
He's probably got more modifications than Mickey Thompson did when he was running the Baja.
Yeah.
Okay. You look at the fact that what we used to do back then is they would take the U100, Big Ollie, Parnelli Jones ran it in the Baja, and okay, he treated it like a NASCAR, cut away everything he didn't need, changed the wheels and tires, maybe the springs, and hopped up the motor a little bit, and boom, off he went and ran the Baja. Yeah, we'll sit here and go through 3D printing and fiberglass and laser jets and
the one thing I will say, and again, this is going to be a polarizing thing I'm getting ready to say.
Okay, like we haven't already gone down that trail on this show.
Is this. I like what they've done because it seems to be a lot of the originality has gone away to conforming to what other people like. And I made this joke a while ago about, if it's not a 1 ton on 40s with a V8 swap, it gets overlooked in the parking lot. But, people would look at your Jeep and go, oh, all the thought put in because you did a lot of originality builds. Some people would say, and
I can fit between two trees.
Well, and other people would say, like the 3.6 and a TJ, that's blasphemy. It should have a 4.0 or a V8. But that person did what they thought was great.
For what they wanted, yeah.
And again, the motor didn't cost them much, obviously. I guess it was a takeout from somebody else. They said, I don't want to just move on, It doesn't matter. The point is that took some originality. That took guts, especially nowadays where, the internet can be a scary place.
Oh, very much so. You have to, as they say, if you're going to post on the internet, don't read the comments.
Post on the internet, thick skin.
Yeah.
But we're lucky enough to have a lot of really good listeners that, get our sense of humor and joke around with us. But more importantly, though, I will always give a tip of the hat and a kudos, even if it's not what I think is my build, to someone doing a little bit of originality and their thought to their project.
And I guess I'm going to take that one step further. If I see originality and then see it on the road, I see it on the trail, and going out there and performing, my hat's off to them. And then the next level is somebody like Aggressive Crawlers, who then takes it out and sells it. Okay. It takes guts to go counter to the mainstream and then go out there and sell it to people. Okay. Because then you're putting your reputation, right where it counts, and it's impressive. So yeah, I'm impressed with it. Yeah, I still have some questions. I'm not going to kid you, folks. This is why we're going to have it on. I want to know your questions. And yes, I'm harping on that. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge.
Yeah. Here's your homework for assignment.
It's an interesting thing. And I think in one of these things, Scott, you're going to have to teach me how to do this Facebook survey stuff. I've been seeing them come up, and you click on it, and it automatically tallies. Because I'd love to see a survey of our listeners on different things, like what's your favorite build, and give them a list of motors, give them a list of axles. What would you pay for? What would you do yourself, kind of thing. I'd love to get a feel for it so that we can tailor the show to their likings. For me, I don't know. This has been an interesting concept of discussion. It's opened a few windows in my mind to some possibilities here, because Slightly Altered is getting kind of long in the tooth. And even though I've done the Edelbrock head and a few other modifications to the engine, it's still essentially a 4-liter straight 6. It breathes better than normal, and that's about it. And it's getting kind of long in the tooth. It's pushing up there into its second 100,000 miles significantly now. And while she performs well, I'm kind of ready to maybe get back to work and making some updates. And so I've got to decide where I'm going with that. And I've thought about the V6s, just never really thought back at the 3.6. It's kind of a neat idea. The 8-speed automatic, maybe. Or do I go to a T5 or to a T6? I can make the decision on the 5 or the 6 because that's about engine RPMs and torque curves and things that I like to play with.
Well, that's a good thing about the 3.6 is it loves high revs.
Yeah, well, that's the key.
It gets thirsty, but it loves high revs, especially when you open up the VVT.
Yeah. So, that's kind of one of the things I'm going to look at, is, okay, should I embrace the new technology or do I stay tried and true? We'll see.
Time will tell.
Anything else you want to cover?
Not really I can think of. Again, we can't stress this enough. On the Trail Podcast at gmail.com with your questions, comments, shows, concerns, or anything else we would like to hear.
Facebook comments will be fine.
Facebook Messenger works too.
And I think, from what I understand on Facebook, it's our email.
Email.
If you want to direct it, you can add plus Kevin or plus Scott to the end. So if you do On the Trail podcast at gmail.com plus Kevin, it will be directed to me.
Okay.
And if it's to plus Scott, it goes to Scott. The truth is we both see the inbox. We're not one of these corporations where it goes off into the mail room and somebody else has to sort them. We both have access to that account and we both see everything. So it's quite fine if you just send it to us that way. Same thing on the Facebook Messenger. I'm there. Scott's there.
We may not be there instantly, but we do see.
Oh, no, we check it. We check it fairly regularly. So, and if it's not, it means that I'm wandering around at a Jeep event somewhere in the country.
Or you're underneath the Jeep helping somebody else.
Or doing my own fixes, like when the step quit again, but this time it wasn't the step's fault.
Or like me handing out flapping penguin parts.
Yes. Someday they'll figure out what you're talking about.
Yeah, well, the bad part is I made that comment. Now it's like wildfire throughout the shop. One person got really upset, and then they looked closely at the logo and went, "Oh my God, he does look like a flapping penguin." I think he's right. Where did you hear that? I can't tell you. It's a state secret. So with that, I think it's time we lock the hub, put the Jeep in 4 low, and hit the trail. While you do that, remember to take nothing but pictures, memories, and your trash when you leave the trail, because we want to keep these trails open for our grandchildren, kids, other kids, and children of other kids that we can long line so we keep wheeling
and for the
everything
simple
else.
reason that it's the right thing to do.
And it's the right thing to do. Speaking on a show on ethics. So with that, until next time with show 188,
Whoa.
we are tipping closer to that 200 mark.
Yeah, we are. Yeah,
And it
we
only
are.
took 7 years. With that, we bid you adieu. And anything else, Kevin?
No, I mean, you're on a tear today.
I just wanted to make sure I got that right. I will not remember anything, including my own name, next time I record. But with that, I'm going out with at least a bang. Right, guys? There you go. Thank you very much. And as always, thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.
Proceeding has been provided for entertainment only. Proper service and repair procedures are vital to the safe, reliable operation of all motor vehicles, as well as personal safety of those performing those repairs. Standard safety procedures and precaution, including the use of safety goggles and proper tools and equipment, should be followed at all times to eliminate the possibility of personal injury or improper service which could damage the vehicle or compromise its safety.
What he said. Thanks a lot for listening, guys. You guys have a great day.
Bye.
This has been a Bend Axle Media production.